Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we're talking about matchmaking, in particular a type of matchmaking called skill-based matchmaking. So, yesterday's video I highlighted the fun that can be had at Tier 6 due to the matchmaking changes of quite some time ago. Several months ago, the matchmaker was changed in such a way that Tier 7 went from being the tier that got double up tiered the least often to now Tier 6 has that generous title, meaning that Tier 6 ships will find themselves in Tier 6 and Tier 7 games more often than they find themselves in Tier 8 games. Do they still get up tiers double to Tier 8? Absolutely, but at much less a higher rate usually than Tier 7 ships. So, yesterday's video highlighted a Tier 6 match that was actually apparently mid-tier. I completely missed that when I was commenting the replay. It was a Tier 7 match, but it was still a fun match nonetheless. And of course, a lot of the comments, not only on that video, but on videos I've done in the past talking about the state of higher tier matches, you'll find dozens, if not hundreds of comments, depending upon how many views the video has, of people saying this, we need skill-based matchmaking. This is an example of why we need skill-based matchmaking. And they claim that skill-based matchmaking will be the end-all, be-all to the problems with the matchmaker right now. And this is touted, again, as the solution to the problems with the matchmaker and with these blowout matches. And I'm one to disagree with that. Skill-based matchmaking is a very peculiar beast. So if you don't know what it is, it does what it sounds like it does. It bases your matches upon your skill. So if you are a lower skilled player, ideally you'd be matched with other lower skilled players that are on at the same time as you, and you wouldn't find yourself playing against someone with like 20,000 battles and like a 61% win rate, which there's some very peculiar cases of the matchmaker absolutely stacking one team against the other. You'll see one team that has just absolute god players on it if you have like matchmaking monitor on, and you'll see the other team has like an average win rate of like 36%, while the Unicum players probably have like a 60 or a 55% plus win rate. And it's like, God, how does this happen? And obviously thinking, well, if they were based upon their skill and the Super Unicums were evenly dispersed amongst the teams, surely you'd have better matches, and I'm sure you absolutely would. And yeah, if you could somehow guarantee that high-skilled players play with high-skilled players and low-skilled players play with low-skilled players, sure, you'd have a lot even matches just by the nature of putting two equally skilled competitors against each other. The problem is, how do you do that? It sounds very good. Again, equally skilled players playing against equally skilled players should be a nice close competition. How do you do that? Answer that for me. Go by their win rate. Oh, okay, sure. You can go by their win rate. Everyone has a win rate in this game. You win a certain percentage of battles. But what if I'm Johnny Unicum and I make a new account and grind up to a tier 10 in like 30 battles, because there's Unicum players that can do that, and I decide just to tank my stats down to like a 32% win rate to now where I'm absolutely able to just curb stomp all these low skill players. How do you stop that? And there are absolutely players that will do that. Not in just this game, but in other games as well. And that's the problem with skill-based matchmaking that a lot of games have. Call of Duty Modern Warfare uses skill-based matchmaking. And this is something that's constantly brought up about people smurfing. It's called smurfing if you don't know what that is. You make a new account just so you can go and quash all the newer or less skilled players. How do you stop that? That's the issue. Now, again, in theory, it sounds great, right? But that's one issue of it, too. The other issue, too, is if it's skill-based matchmaking in random battles, is that really random battles anymore? That sounds a lot like ranked. And random battles, from the way it sounds, it's supposed to be random, it's supposed to be casual, it's supposed to be just, go in there and derp around with my team for a little while. And yes, the current state of random battles is very, very, very unfortunate, especially at higher tier, with a lot of the things that happen with the meta and the way that some of the teams are thrown together. But at the end of the day, it is random battles. So there's certainly that argument, and many people have commented that argument when I talk about blowout matches and stuff. They say, well, it's random battles. It just happens sometimes. It's just a random online match. Sure. So skill-based matchmaking, is that the answer to this problem? Like I said, no, I don't think so. But I don't really think that is the problem with the matchmaker. I think the problem with the matchmaker is that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do a lot of the times. And plus, some of these new ship classes that well, not new classes, but some of these new ships that we're getting that kind of blur the lines between classes aren't really helping that much. I talked about this in my hybrid video. So, the first thing, matchmaking not doing what it's supposed to do. When they changed the matchmaker in, God, I don't know what patch it was, matchmaking is supposed to try its hardest to match identical ships. If there's 2 Yammies in queue, there should be a Yammy on the enemy team and a Yammy on the friendly team. If there's a Slava in queue, it's supposed to try and fit a Slava or some type of long-range battleship on the enemy team. That's why you will see Slavas and Shikishimas often mirroring each other, because they're both long-range sniping battleships. If there's something like let's say an Alaska on the enemy team, it's supposed to find some type of super cruiser or ideally another Alaska to plop on the enemy team. You see what I'm saying? Radar ship on the enemy team, radar ship on the friendly team, Torp DD on the friendly team, Torp DD on the enemy team. That is what it is supposed to do. However, if you've played this game for long enough, you're seeing that that doesn't happen plenty of times. For example, this was a pretty, I don't think I caught it on stream or I was recording, but I remember I had a match where on the enemy team, there was 2 Isseis. On the friendly team, there's 2 Hyugas. Both the same class, base class, of course. You know, the Issei is a converted Hyuga, but definitely not the same ship. Definitely gave the team the huge advantage there with the 2 hybrid battleships. Why didn't it give one Hyuga to one team, a Hyuga to the other team, an Issei to the other team, and an Issei to the other team? That would have been a lot simpler. And remember, too, when we had all those matches when Thunderers being removed, when one team would have 4 Thunderers, not in a division, on their side, and the other side wouldn't have any Thunderers. So I'm not sure if there's a glitch with it where in like some situations, you know, maybe like this guy's been waiting in queue for like 3 minutes, this guy's been waiting in queue for 1 minute, so we're going to hurry up and throw these teams together so we, you know, try to get a match out as fast as possible. And it makes these goofs from time to time, but it does seem to be making these goofs quite often. I mean, me for one, I'd be willing to sit in a queue. I mean, you barely sit in queue unless you're playing at like 2 o'clock in the morning on the North America server for more than like a minute. I'd be willing to sit there for 2 or 3 minutes to get a more evenly balanced match. And yes, sometimes it does throw the teams together correctly, and you still get those blowout matches. But again, it is an online match, so that's always a possibility of happening. But with the matchmaker failing to properly balance the teams just by ship types now, that's an issue. And like I said, too, with these new ships that are kind of, you know, is this really a cruiser or is this really a destroyer like the Elbing? That's a very valid point brought up about the Elbing. The Elbing is a DD in class and game, but it's really more of a light cruiser. And it doesn't really fulfill the role of a DD. It doesn't really spot. It can't really contest a cap because of its detection range and its slow DPM of its guns. It can't really fight, you know, and contest a cap like something like a Smallland or a Daring could. It can't do that. It's just not in the ship's design. I mean, it can do it. It can't do it very well, I guess is the better way I should put it. But that is a DD. So you'll have an Elbing get matched up against, again, like a Daring. And that's not a fair matchup. You know, sure, one team has this nasty little light cruiser that can obliterate things with its AP guns, but they don't have the Daring there on their roster. They don't have something that fulfills that same role on their team. And you're supposed to. That's supposed to be what the matchmaker's supposed to do as of the changes and as of my understanding of it. And it's not doing that. And these new hybrid ships aren't really helping it out that much. And like I said in my hybrid video, this is a big problem because these hybrid ships, by themselves, they're actually pretty well balanced. The Issei by itself is a pretty well balanced ship. But when a team's got like 2 or 3 of them and they just do the slightest bit of communication, it's quite powerful. So when Matchmaking throws 3 of them on one side and not a single one on the other side, when they should at least have 1, that's a big issue. And that's where my issues with the Matchmaker are. And skill-based matchmaking, I really don't think it's the answer. Because again, it can be abused really easily. People can smurf, people can just throw. And then of course, when people throw to just lower their KD, lower their win rate, that of course hurts the team because, you know, the guy would just go zooming right in there into the cap and just get annihilated in his cruiser or destroyer or whatever. It sucks to be on the same team with that guy. Ironically, the same example they give for the detonation flag farming. But in truth, that is what some people would do. Is it a large number of people? I don't know, but I'm sure, you know, if someone's tired of going up against higher skilled players, they'll get to the point to where they'll be willing to do that, and there's an incentive to do it because you'll be matched against less skilled players. So I don't think skill-based matchmaking is the answer. And those of you that do say it's the answer, why do you say it's the answer? And how do you counter people that would be willingly throwing or willingly abusing the system? But anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on that topic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As always, have a wonderful day. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. When we hit 30,000 subs, we're just past 27,500 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.